my voice would not sync up with the sound, so hopefully that's not going to be such an issue today. We'll see. Chapter 21. Rank and Title. Enough, Nick growled. Barry scowled up at him, the night piece still clasped in her hand. She surveyed him across the chessboard. The same damned chessboard that had sat atop the same damned table for 3 bloody days. If he didn't get out of this cabin soon, he was going to go stark raving mad. You made me lose my train of thought, she said. Now I have to go through it all over again. If I move him and you move your bishop, then it sets up the possibility for me to take him, but only if I wish to expose another piece. If I don't capture... Stop, I beg you, before I overturn the board. I'm trying to make a good game of it. If we go too fast, we will have to play again and again. We've already played again and again. I'm going mad with boredom, and so are you. She lifted her chin proudly. Nonsense. Look at those wrinkles in your skirts from where you've been crushing them in your fists. You are restless and agitated, but enough is enough. We're going out. Ida glanced down at her lap, then quickly back up at him. Nick, we can't. I thought we agreed we must remain safe, only leaving the cabin for food and to use the washroom. Never alone, otherwise in the cabin with the door barricaded. He rose abruptly, rattling the board and knocking over several pieces. In the voice he usually reserved for the floor of Parliament, he repeated, We are going out. She was on her feet a moment later, the game forgotten. You needn't be so tyrannical. Nick's jaw clenched. Did she hate his authoritative side? She probably hated it. Damn it, so much. He couldn't help himself. He was accustomed to making decisions and giving orders. It was a necessary part of his life. The part of his life she didn't know about. Damn, damn, damn. Would you listen to me otherwise? He challenged. I'm not listening to you now. I'm perfectly fine here. We can read one of your books. Again. Or start up another game of cards. Do you know any magic tricks? He pushed the dressing table barricade out of the way and opened the door. Ida darted into the corridor, looking this way and that, her steak knife clutched in her hand, ready to defend him to the death. God, what a woman. It does appear safe enough, she said, slipping the knife back into her purse. You are going mad, and so am I. I know, but you can't keep me shut away forever, Ida, nor can I do such to you. Her sigh was long and heavy. Oh, very well. But we must stay in public spaces where we can be seen at all times and cannot be attacked, and you must tell me all about your defensive potions. Perhaps we can even look for clues. Do you know how to do that? No, my sister is the investigator in the family. With as little as we know, I don't even know where to start. He locked the door and double-checked it before extending his hand. Come, let's walk about the deck. I fear my legs will stop working entirely if I don't stretch them out. I'll tell you about those potions. Her fingers twined with his, the touch igniting a blaze of desire deep within him. 3 days they'd been together in that cabin. 3 nights lying side by side on the small bed. And yet this was their most intimate contact since she'd nursed him through his seasickness. He fought off the temptation to turn right around and usher her back into the bedroom. They walked hand in hand up to the deck, eyes too long indoors squinting in the bright sunshine. The gentle breeze ruffled Nick's never-tidy hair and toyed with a little curl that had escaped Ida's chignon. He considered tucking it behind her ear, running his thumb across her cheek, tugging her close for a long, lingering kiss, sating the desire that had been driving him mad for days. Not in public. The weather was too fine. Many men and a handful of women besides strolled the deck, basking in the warmth of the sunshine. He couldn't do anything here that might be construed as inappropriate. Not after what Barry's had already suffered at the hands of good society. Instead, he tried to keep watch for Thin Face and the faux Americans. Tell me about the potions, Ida suggested. Potions, yes. Anything to keep his mind off her. Anything to not dwell on the glimpses of bare leg he'd seen as she slid in and out of bed, or the way her nightgown clung to the perfect curves of her breasts. He kept his eyes fixed firmly ahead, but her delicate scent of rose and bergamot wafted through the air, teasing and tempting. A perfect blend of masculine and feminine, it slithered through his defenses, conjuring up fantasies of other, more corporeal joinings. You've seen the sleeping potion. His voice sounded unnaturally low. He released her hand before she could notice his palm had begun to sweat. I cleaned and refilled the syringe. We must be sparing with it, however, as that is all I have left of it. I would hope it would be a last resort. I would prefer you never get close enough to an attacker to use it. It didn't work out well for you in Alexandria. I lived, thanks to her. If he'd been alone, would he have had sense enough to treat the wound? Or could he have brought himself to drink one of the other healing potions? He honestly didn't know. Nick reached inside his coat, finding the potion he desired by feel alone. I imagine this looks familiar to you. Ida accepted the small bottle, examining the pump mechanism. A common enough style of perfume bottle, but I assume this is not a fragrance. No. It's meant to stun. Any enemy who inhales the mist will be rendered momentarily confused and dizzy. A larger dose and he will collapse. It's easy to use, but you must be certain of the wind conditions, so you don't inhale any yourself. Best used indoors, where the air is still. She returned the potion, and he swapped it for the next. Slick potion. Pour out behind you if you're being chased. 9 times out of 10, a person stepping in it will fall. I have 2, and they're both in the green vials. Green vials. Understood. Finally, I have a flash potion. Only one in this teardrop-shaped bottle. Expose it to air, and it will produce a flash of light bright enough to temporarily blind a man. Dash it on the ground, and don't look. She nodded. Would you like to carry any with you? 1 slick potion, in case we must run. I will leave the rest to you, since we will be remaining together at all times. She gave him a stern look, warning him that any misbehavior would have consequences. It was a look of authority, one that few would dare use on a man of his rank. Not that she knew who he really was. He tried to tell her over the last few days, as he regaled her with tales of his childhood, but each time the words clogged in his throat. He couldn't bear to change her image of him. Now he was Mr. Masterson, residential designer and sometime investigative agent. A gentleman, but one who plied a trade. They were equals. The moment he became Lord Sharp, the power balance would shift. He could only imagine what her social climbing parents must have taught her about interacting with titled ladies and gentlemen. Deference, mildness, excessive courtesy, suppression of her natural exuberance. He couldn't imagine her being anything but disdainful of such device. After her ill treatment by Carsley and others of his social circle, she would have all the more reason to resent the aristocracy. She already disliked his tendency to give orders with every expectation of immediate obedience. How furious would she be to find that it came from a decade of commanding an earldom, and he could hardly undo his situation in life. There's something I must tell you about myself. Ida's nose crinkled as she frowned. You make it sound so dire. Haven't you been telling me about yourself for days? All those stories about you and Anna, how you left university to become the protector of your family when your father died. Sweet things and admirable things. You are a good man, Nicholas Masterson, a gentleman, and not merely in the traditional sense, but by your actions and your integrity. But he was a gentleman in the traditional sense, a landowner with no need to work for a living, a man whose primary business was to pay his estate manager and the bankers who organized the investments that slowly but steadily increased his family fortune, a man who was supposed to feel superior to the scandalous daughter of a mere knighted tradesman. Damn it, he didn't want to tell her. He didn't want to outrank her. You're too good for me, Ida Quimby. Excuse me, did you say Quimby? Interrupted an unfamiliar voice. Both Nick and Ida spun to look at the speaker, a pristinely dressed young man with a curled mustache and slicked-back hair. Yes, I'm Miss Quimby. Are you a relation to Sir Mortimer Quimby? He's my father, in fact. A wide smile split the man's face. How wonderful! I didn't know he had a daughter. Of course, I've known him less than a year, and not as well as I would like. But he's a capital fellow, throws wonderful parties. So generous to his guests. But forgive me, I haven't introduced myself. Mr. John Featherstone at your service. Such a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Miss Quimby. Oh, thank you. She glanced at Nick. Allow me to... You must come to the ball I'm hosting, Miss Quimby, the interrupter babbled. Nothing so grand as your father's parties, of course, just a small affair I'm putting on. But the ballroom here on the ship is adequate, and we will have drinks and music and dancing. You must save me a dance, Miss Quimby. Now tell me, what brings you so far from home? He reached to take her arm, but Ida deftly dodged his touch. I'm on my way to visit my brother, who works in Bombay. Ah, wonderful, wonderful. Family is so important, don't you think? I do hope your travels have been pleasant. As a matter of fact, they have been. I was able to spend some time in Paris, and after a rather unexpected detour, she tossed Nick a significant look, I had a few days of sightseeing in Italy. She would never stop reminding him. The thought almost made him smile. He would happily suffer a lifetime of reminders, if it meant a lifetime with her. Excellent. That is a fetching ensemble you're wearing, Miss Quimby. The pink brings out the color in your cheeks. Nick scowled. Not that Interrupter noticed, or even looked in his direction. He was too busy goggling at berries, his eyes sweeping up and down her figure. And that scent you're wearing is so delightful. Now the scoundrel was sniffing her? Nick's jaw tightened. Why hadn't he had the sense to compliment her on the new perfume before anyone else did? Ida's blue eyes glimmered with happiness. Thank you. I made it myself. It's a new fragrance that I'm testing for the first time. It is very much a success. The man leaned toward her, breathing deeply, and Nick was struck with an unusually violent urge to smash the cad's pretty nose. Do tell me you will attend my little ball, the jackass continued. It's to be held the last night of our journey, so I've called it the 12th night ball, and it will have a Shakespearean theme, because who doesn't like the bard? A ball does sound nice. It's been too long since I danced. The wistfulness of her tone cut straight to Nick's heart. She hadn't been to a party in 2 years, and he knew she loved to dance. He'd seen her twirling down the streets often enough, moving to music that only existed in her head. Damn it all, she was going to this ball, and he was going to make certain she had the time of her life. We would be happy to accept your invitation, he said, loud enough that Interrupter could no longer ignore him. The man turned slowly. His eyes scanned Nick from head to toe, taking in the scuffed boots, faded coat, and 2 days' worth of stubble. My invitation was extended only to the lady, sir. He put a heavy sneer on the last word, looking down his nose, even though he fell several inches short of Nick's height. My lord, Nick corrected. I beg your pardon. I believe you meant to say, my invitation was extended only to the lady, my lord, but I would be most honored if you would grace us with your presence as well. Interrupter puffed up his scrawny chest. Just who do you think you are? Nick strode closer until he loomed over the smaller man. Putting the full weight of his noble lineage into his voice, he replied, Nicholas Masterson, Earl of Sharp. And that's the end of chapter 21. It kind of looks like my video is like flickering. I don't know why. Facebook is making me do a new thing, like a new way of doing videos. So I'll have to see what's up with that. But hopefully it looked okay for you. And tomorrow we will see what Ida's reaction is to learning who Nick really is.